Everyone can hear online? Councillor Engelstolfer and Councillor Grosso?
I'm here, yes. Everything's good. I can hear you loud and clear.
No, I'm not doing that. No.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Roy Pennell from Ward 4, and I'll be chairing your meeting today. I'd like to welcome the public, my fellow councillor members, the media, and anyone who is joining us in person and electronically for this committee whole meeting. Today, committee is meeting at Shire Hall, Picton. Today's agenda lists all the items before committee for consideration. The recommended motions on today's agenda are shown in boldface. Copies of the agenda have been posted on our website. This meeting is being live streamed, and any participation in the meeting proceedings will become part of the public record. The recording from the meeting will be live streamed on the county's website and can be viewed by selecting live stream meetings on the bottom right of the county's homepage at thecounty.on.ca. Under Agenda 5, I will be asking for comments from the audience. Today, we have one registered comment from the audience. If anyone present would like to speak at this section of the agenda present at this meeting, you are welcome to do so. Members of the public who wish to provide comments at the future meeting can do so by contacting clerk's office at pecounty.on.ca to register. A reminder that if you participate, your name will be included in the committee minutes and form part of the public record and posted to the county's website. I want to remind everyone that we may differ in opinions, but it is important to remain respectful of each other. For those in attendance, please refrain from clapping in the council chambers, as it does not add to the discussion and actually is in contravention of the procedural bylaw. Any motion made at this meeting is not final until the council meeting of February 11th, 2025, at which time the council may approve, amend, defer, or otherwise change the motion made by this committee. In the event of a fire, please use the applicable 2 fire exits in Shire Hall or wherever you're tuning in from. For those in Shire, please mute and limit the use of your cell phones. Now, I would normally be asking for a motion to confirm the agenda, but I have a Pennell Ferguson motion to allow for announcement, which we know if.
Yeah, Ferguson, Pennell Ferguson motion, or
Yes,
to amend the agenda
yes.
to add a section for announcements?
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
All those in favor?
I don't think the chair can make a motion.
Oh, okay. That's Maynard Ferguson motion then.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chair, I think you mentioned it's the next council meeting.
Oh,
And it's, I think it's,
yeah, I had to, I'll change that on. Thank you.
I'm looking forward to time travel.
That's the way I want to go backwards. All those in favor of that motion? Carried. Okay. Now, can I get a confirmation of the agenda with the change? Moved by Councillor Robert, seconded by Councillor Branderhurst.
Thank you. This is a Roberts Branderhurst motion that the agenda as amended for the Committee of the Whole meeting of February 13th, 2025 be confirmed.
All those in favor? Carried. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Seeing none? Now, I would put in now the announcements, and what they are is we want everyone to join the county for Family Day. There's all kinds of things going on. Check your newspaper or the website. The second announcement I'd like to make is a sincere thank you to the roads department, because we've just come through a storm and I think a tremendous job has been done. So that's the last one. Thanks. Okay, now we have presentations. And Irene Harris is going to be talking about advisory committee for the county.
Thank you.
Accessibility Advisory
Yep.
Committee. Thank you. I think you've got up to 20 minutes for this presentation.
Thank you, Councillor Roy, and thank you for all you do at our committee meetings. We really appreciate it. So I'm happy to be here today to make a report to you, our annual report from the Accessibility Advisory Committee. You've had a very long, extensive report attached into your agenda, and I just wanted to give a few highlights and let you know some of our thoughts and some of the things that we did in the last year. Many hands and minds made our work possible. We feel that we've had a very productive year again. So I thanked you, Councillor Roy. You're very helpful at our committee meetings with motions and guiding us on how to get the work done within the context of what the county rules and regulations are, so to speak. And also big thanks to you, Councillor Kate, who constantly giving us advice, helping us through the roadmap and getting things done. Kate also helps us with site plan review, which has been very technical, very difficult. Thank you so much. And another big thanks to your clerk, Catalina Blumenberg, who's here today. And Catalina is staffing our committee. It's tons of work. And, you know, I often think for her, she's your clerk. And we're a bunch of advocates who are very impatient with getting accessibility done. And she's always been able to help us meld those two together and move things forward in a very positive way. Very talented clerk we have, and we appreciate all that she's done for us. And wish you well with your maternity leave. Thanks, Catalina. I just want to give you a context that we have to really pay attention to. There was a legislated promise in Ontario that by January 1st, 2025, Ontario would be totally accessible, and it is not. And our county didn't meet that goal either. You know, it's very difficult because that legislation was passed in 2005, and it just didn't happen. But having said that, since that promise was made in 2005, you kind of see signs of accessibility around that I did not see before 2005. When you think about it, accessible parking, every parking spot you go to, there's accessible parking spaces. We see cuts in sidewalks and curbs for wheelchairs and strollers and now they've added, you know, those bumps so that for people who are blind, they can feel those and know they're at a curb cut. We see accessible playground equipment. And just to let you know that Picton is cited as an example of one of the first accessible playgrounds over at by the arena there. So we are, you know, that might not have happened before. When you're in elevators, you often hear them saying the floor, you know, you're at 1, 2, 3, and 4, up to the Moby mats that we now have at the Wellington Beach. And we think these changes happened because of the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act, because we have a human rights code that gives individuals a right to complain when things are not accessible. The Ontario Building Code got changed extensively to add all of these accessibility pieces. And finally, I believe it's because we had caring leaders, people that are building buildings, doing infrastructure at municipalities that said, let's just step back and see what we can do for accessibility. A lot of places and people went beyond the call of the legislation, and we see signs of that. This council last year, you put forward a very progressive motion saying to the province that it was time for a fund, a provincial fund, that municipalities could access when they see what needs to be done in our buildings and in our infrastructure. The province did not do that. You had 22 municipalities sign on, so there is support for it. And we hope that you will keep pushing for that. Imagine if you had that fund. If all the municipalities in Ontario could say, we have the shopping list for what has to be fixed on the ground in our municipalities, we could get it done pretty quickly. And the province is not there in supporting that, and they need to be. They are ignoring this issue too much. We get little grants for things, of which we are greatly appreciative, but there really needs to be a big push. We need the money to upgrade our buildings, our parks and beaches for accessible transportation, and to help businesses get to be accessible. So it's urgent. We thank you for that motion. We thank you for that leadership, and let's see if we can get it pushed a little bit more next year. Having said that, we just wanted to remind you that council does spend a lot of money. You do have a big budget. And you do spend money. You spend it on roads, on sidewalks, on all kinds of improvements. So what we're hoping, our pitch to you for next year is this. Like, not next year, this year, 2025. Our pitch is this. When you're spending money on infrastructure, on a program, on a policy, anything, stop and say to the staff and to people working on that, where does accessibility play in this? Is there something we could do while we're doing blah, blah, blah? Is there a piece for accessibility that we could be doing? We're fixing a sidewalk. Should the sidewalks be raised a bit higher so that there's not a step getting into businesses? Are the curb cuts good? Do we have enough accessible parking while we're changing a road? We need an accessibility lens. We need you to say, every time you spend money, accessibility isn't something that sits over there. We'll get to that. Do it while you're doing things. We really urge that happen. To help make that happen, our committee's looking at coming up with a definition. If you look at things through an accessibility lens, what does that mean? And as Catalina reminded us, how do you operationalize that? Easier said than done sometimes. You got to kind of build it into processes. So we hopefully will be coming forward to you this year with some, harder recommendations on how to do this. But in the meantime, please make sure that you think about accessibility in the way you think about the environment or affordability when you look at work that's being done, when you're spending money. We have a fabulous committee. We want to thank the committee for all of their work. Our vice chair, Sarah Moffat, couldn't be here with us today, and I think we might have a couple of people that were going to be joining us from the committee. Our vice chair, Sarah Moffat, who worked on 2 events, on a Forward Together event, and she's also represents us on the Community Safety and Wellbeing Group. Councillor McNaughton is on our Planning Working Group. Carolyn Reese is our business liaison and is working on a big project with the business sector. Olivia Tim, who worked on the Access the County task team, which is our business project, and our Forward Together event with nonprofits. Gisela Tomlinson, who's been fabulous but has decided to retire from our committee this year. Ivan Robinson, who joined the Forward Together working group. Artemis Saunders, who is our committee on the Strategy Transit Task Team. Jeff Beattie is working on the Accessibility Lens Project. Stu Houlihan, who is working on the Planning Work Group. And at the end of the year, thank you, you appointed 3 new members who are just fabulous: Martha Heater, Justin DeMille, and Gage Rickman. So I just want to highlight a few things of what we actually got done last year. The first one, which I've mentioned, is our work with the business community. Thanks to a grant that we got from the government, the county has set up Access the County project. This is working with businesses. They're actually training people on what the act requires. What do businesses have to do to be accessible and to meet the requirements of the legislation? So that is happening. Materials are being produced, training is happening, and we will have a more further support for you as that project winds up in this year, in 2025. I think what's really good, though, is that we'll have trained people who can help businesses do that assessment. There's going to be materials that people can use to say, and it's not just wheelchair things, it's also things like menus being in Braille, training staff. What do you do if someone comes in and they can't hear or they can't get in the door? So I think there's going to be a lot of long-term positive things that are left from that project. Another thing we did was we decided that we needed to touch base with our nonprofit agencies. We have a lot of good agencies in this county. And so we put together something called Forward Together. It was a meeting with a number of representatives from the nonprofits, those that are working specifically on accessibility, with the goal to say, if the county is trying to become more accessible and you're working on these issues, what are you seeing that we could be doing better? How do we fill gaps in service? So we had the one session and hope to have another one this year, and it was really fabulous. And our thanks to Sarah Moffat, Catalina, Olivia, Ivan, and Tegan for many hours that they spent putting that together. The third thing was accessible parking spaces. You approved 19 accessible parking spaces. When the staff did the survey, the county was pretty bad when it came to that. Main streets in Picton, Bloomfield, and Wellington now have accessible spaces, and we're hoping that this year you will have money to do the same at our parks and beaches, which most of them do not have accessible spaces. It's a small thing, but it's critical, right? If you've got someone with any mobility issue, where they're using a wheelchair or walkers, or they have arthritis trying to get out of their car, to have an accessible space on Picton's main street makes a big difference. It means you got room to maneuver and you're going to be able to do it safely. So thank you for supporting that. I know there was a discussion about, you lose some spaces to make up for getting bigger accessible spaces, but you know what, it's time. It's time to minimally have accessible parking spaces everywhere we need them. And our parks and beaches, we hope we'll be able to do that this year with your approval. We had a lot of talk about residents and visitors wanting to give feedback to the county on how, if they see examples of where accessibility is lacking. And so that process and feedback system was improved, and we're supposed to be getting a report to council and to the committee on the kinds of complaints that we're getting. Number 5 is parkland funds. Absolutely critical. When you look at studies like children with disabilities tend not to get to go to parks. Can you imagine? Because when they get there, well, first of all, if you're driving, you don't have accessible parking space. So that's a kind of a first to get there, to park. The children have to be able to have accessible playground equipment. And I mentioned Picton, and according to Accessible Playgrounds Ontario, our Prince Edward County Community Center Playground in Picton gets an accessible designation for its metal slide, its transfer station, rubber surfacing, sway fun, and accessible parking and pathways to the playground. And it is highlighted on their website. We were one of 3 municipalities at one point that had this. So bravo Picton and bravo Council. Whoever put that together, you've made a big difference for people. The staff, now you're using parkland funds to improve all of the parks. So we have been consulting with staff, identifying different things that are needed to make playgrounds accessible. And hopefully we will hear back from them this year on how that went. Just another note that we just found out, the curling club. We have a member who is in a wheelchair who curls, and he wanted to know about the curling club here. And Kate kindly put him in touch with the people that run that club. He said it's fabulous. Totally accessible washrooms. He said the work they've done there is like bravo. Thank you, it was really great. Number 6 is facilities, conditions, the studying of buildings and how our county buildings are not accessible. We have a long road there, and we need money from the province to help change this. We know that. The KPMG report from 2021 gave us a shopping list. It tells you, look at Shire Hall, here's what you got to do to make it accessible. You want to look at another town hall, here's your shopping list. To know that is a gem. Like if you know the problem, then if you're ever spending money on any of those facilities, use your accessibility lens and that shopping list and say, maybe we could fix the ramp. Or maybe we could stretch a bit with the money and put in an accessible washroom. Every little bit that you do makes such a huge, huge difference to everybody.
Excuse me, Irene, we got about a minute left. I don't know whether you...
It's what? You have a minute left. Oh, I have a minute left. Oh, my goodness. I'm sorry I talked too long. Okay. I've just been like 4 more minutes.
Motion to extend?
Seconded.
Seconded, all in favor?
Thank you very much. Thank you, Kate. We had deputations to council. Number 8, our committee needs training on diversity, equity, and inclusion. We had asked for this, and a year ago you had passed a motion for this training to proceed. It has not. So we are still trying to get that moving. I hope we do. National Accessibility Week in May, there were a lot of activities that the county put together, and this year we're going to do it again, hopefully with community living. What a fabulous agency they are. Site plan reviews. You did a lot of development reviews last year. So we've been giving all of our accessibility comments. I just need to say that we give the same comments over and over and over on every single one. It's a problem. So what we're starting to look at is that maybe we need a better way to require accessibility items up front with developers so that it doesn't get delayed. As we begin 2025, there's a lot of work needs to be done to get us to the point of full accessibility with council's facilities, parks, programs, and services. We believe the commitment is there, but hear the point being made that there's not the budget to get the work done quickly. But if accessibility is considered while any plans are being made on any improvements, we will achieve more faster. We look forward to working with council and staff on more achievements through 2025. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the committee? Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Irene, there are a couple of little questions at the end of this, I'm going to say, but first of all, I just wanted to thank you for your leadership on accessibility, for your accomplishments, and I'm a big fan of your impatience. 20 years is long enough. Some of us on the Horseshoe felt that the KPMG study from 2021 was enough to run with. And 20 years, as I said, was long enough to wait to get actual results. But I think if memory serves me correctly, we provided $50,000 for yet another study. And now I come to my two little questions. So the biggest issue, as I understand it, is the state of our buildings. And for me anyway, a glaring example of why there is great impatience is Shire Hall itself, with the elevator and the ramp. Between the two studies, could you ascertain, or can you ascertain, or can you share what it would have cost, or what it will cost eventually, I hope, to deal with the elevator and the ramp at Shire Hall?
I had trouble hearing a little bit, Bill. You were asking, like, the cost of doing that ramp and that elevator? Yeah. That's a good question. We don't know. At least what the KPMG study told us was that the ramp doesn't meet code and the elevator is a service elevator, not for people. So we don't know the amount, what it would cost to do that. I'm assuming there might have been a costing when you decided on renovations for Shire Hall, because you did a lot of stuff here, but the ramp didn't get included and the elevator didn't get included. So whether or not at that time there was a closer look, I don't know.
Follow up.
Yeah, Irene, maybe I'll follow up with staff when we get to that item today.
Is there?
Thank you.
Oh, is there anyone else? Councillor McNaughton?
Thank you. As always, I like how you put it, Councillor Roberts. Your extraordinary diligence is born of impatience to see us all progress. And we've heard examples on the committee of why it's so important from members of the committee who experience barriers in day-to-day life at the municipal level, connecting with healthcare, and just being out in the community and the limits that it creates. So it really brings home why it's so important. So that sense of urgency, I think, is necessary and our credit to our community that the entire committee shares it. What wonderful, hard-working members of that committee it is. It's as Councillor Pennell can also speak to, it's a hard-working committee, not a read your agenda and pass your motions committee. It is really hands-on. So it's a treasure, thank you. And Irene, you are, on probably the most you dedicate. It's like a full-time job for you. So grateful for that. I do want to sort of touch on a couple of things you said. One was the options to begin the discussions with developers to say, what can you do better? What package can you offer? How can we ensure that your buildings are as accessible as possible and as accessible as, to provide housing in that critical housing gap? I just want to highlight that. It's on page 12, and I think it's a really important note, particularly for developers that can offer a package to purchasers in a condo development, for example. It would be an amazing option. But additionally, we also have had discussions at this table on a motion that did go to the province at one point about the province's role. We've certainly had that great feedback that Irene has pointed out to the motion about funding municipalities, but we've also had some public discussion about how the province funds disability. So disability benefits are currently a starvation amount. It's an amount that people cannot live on and harms people who are already deeply vulnerable.
Excuse me, Councillor.
I'm almost done.
Is there a specific question?
It doesn't have to be a question. It can be a comment in our procedural bylaw. But thank you. And I am wrapping up. So I think we should revisit that every single year, communicating with the province, regardless who the government is, until they actually provide a proper living wage for people who are on disability. And that is something I could bring to the committee or just bring to council on behalf of the committee. And I think fits in all of our goals. Thank you so much for everything you've done, your presentation, and the collaborative effort that the committee brings. It's so appreciated.
Councillor Brenders.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And also, I'd just like to thank you for the work your committee's doing. And I think it's a great idea to have the chance for people to reach out and say what they found was accessible and what they didn't in a feed that might be a little easier to comment on than, emailing council or talking to staff. Like it seems like a very good approach to be able to reach out but your ripple effect is happening, which I just wanted to say. It's neat to be able to go into a winery and see they have large print options for menus. To have accessible seating, even if somebody has a limp, if somebody has a sore leg, if they need a table at a lower level for a wheelchair. Like, these are things that when you're looking, like you said, when you see it, when you have the lens on and you're looking for it, that ripple effect is happening throughout our community in very small ways. And yes, we're not fully accessible by 2025. However, recently, all of a sudden, my dad is in a spot that he's in a wheelchair and he's in a walker. So to have those, you see the world a little differently all of a sudden, and it hits you a little differently when you're trying to actually work around those parking spots. And I'm sure everybody on council all has that family member and that individual that we need to be looking out for. And yes, it hits a little closer when it's at home, but I think that's something, like you said, we need to remember, is to take care of those people that just need that little bit of extra, because you're right, it is game-changing when you need that person. So anyways, thank you for the work that you're doing, and to be able to bring it forward some. Also, just one more thing, Councillor Nyman and myself sit on PELIS, Prince Edward, Lennox and Addington Social Services, and they built 8 units of affordable housing in Tamworth, with 4 of those units being completely accessible. And they are the units, though, that they have a very long list with keeping in stock. Those are the ones that we've heard multiple times from their councillors, that the turnover is high and the people need help with it, like, to get that. So I would support any motion that gets our development committee, because I think you're right, it's an easy option. It's an easy step forward, but we just have to take it. So thank you for that reminder.
Are there any other questions, or just, I'd like to say, Irene, that it's a pleasure working with you, and I think the reason why you've been so successful, particularly in the last year. You never take no for an answer, and you're after your committee all the time to do better. So thank you. Could I get a motion to receive the presentation? Councillor Roberts, Councillor Nyman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a Roberts-Nyman motion that the presentation by Irene Harris, Chair, Accessibility Advisory Committee, regarding the 2024 annual update and report to Council be received.
All those in favor? Carried. Are there any comments from the audience? No, seeing none. Now we have,
Your Worship, there is one online, and we're just waiting for him to connect.
is that David?
Yes.
Okay. We have David Bagasian, and he will be discussing his new job with the county. Go ahead, David, if you're...
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. My name is David Bogosian, and I have the honor to introduce myself as the incoming Integrity Commissioner for Prince Edward County, which I've always regarded as one of the most picturesque places in Ontario. I am a lawyer that's predominantly practiced municipal law for the past 35 years. I have been an integrity commissioner. I'm currently an integrity commissioner for approximately 14 municipalities, and I started doing integrity commissioner work about 4 years ago. We act for a variety of municipalities ranging from the size of a city like Hamilton, Ontario, ranging right down to smaller municipalities like Temagami. My firm has been in business for 20 years as of this year. We currently have 12 lawyers and with support staff, office, clerical, and paralegals, we have about 25 staff in total. In terms of the integrity commissioner work, it's essentially a team of 3. There's myself, my partner, Avril Allen, who's been practicing for in excess of 20 years and also does predominantly municipal law work. And we have a junior lawyer named Stuart Gordon, who is a graduate of Queen's Law School, just down the road from you, who does a lot of our background investigation work, whether it's legal research or factual investigation, etc. I understand that on or immediately after February 26th, my contact information is going to be put up on the county website and made available to you. I'm looking forward to working with you, to providing advice, to doing a training seminar with you in the spring, just a couple of months down the road, and to getting to know you better in person at that time. So thank you very much for the honor of the appointment, and I look forward to serving you.
Thank you. Are there any questions from councillors? Seeing none, thank you very much. We look forward to, if we need you in the future, hopefully we don't, but we certainly glad to welcome you aboard.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Have a great day.
Could I get a... do you have a question of...
No, just do you want someone to receive the comment?
Go ahead.
Motion to receive, oh, I need a seconder to receive. Thank you. McNaughton Prince, motion to receive the comment from the audience.
All those in favor? Carried. Now we have presentation on the corporate and legislative services. I forgot to put your name down, that you were the one doing that. Thanks.
Good afternoon, committee. It's a tough act to follow from Irene. She did an excellent job describing all of the successes that the committee and staff have had together on the accessibility portfolio for 2024. So I'll just give you a quick high-level overview. But essentially, we as the municipality have to be compliant with AODA and the different regulations, and we are obliged to remove the barriers to people being able to fully participate in society. So the barriers that we are eliminating together with the Accessibility Advisory Committee are physical barriers. So elements of buildings or other spaces that create barriers for access to persons with disabilities. Technological, barriers that occur when a device, platform, or method of communication is not accessible. So all of our website communications and all of our minutes and all of our reports are currently accessible and compliant with this. But there's always work to do. For example, I'll just give you an example. Yesterday, we received, through our enhanced feedback process, a member of the public who noted that their tax bill was not accessible because it was not 12-point form aerial. So that was a great learning opportunity for us. I immediately responded, thanked them for providing us with that awareness that we needed to make sure our tax bills were accessible. And I quickly worked with the tax department to ensure that the next round for May will be accessible, and we'll also have a notice to say that if they require this in a different format, because not everyone necessarily needs it to be larger font. Like Irene noted, some people would like it in Braille, or someone maybe would just like to meet with a member of staff and talk about their tax bill. So we're going to add a notice that says that if they require it in an alternative format, to contact the clerk's office, and we will make sure that we make that accommodation. Another barrier is organizational. So any policy, procedure, or practice that hinders equal participation, and that's an organizational barrier that we, in all of the work that we do, try to eliminate. And lastly, attitudinal. So any behavior, assumptions, or practices that discriminate against persons with disabilities. In my short time leading the accessibility portfolio, it was moved over to the clerk's office in 2020. I really have seen accessibility become integral in our organizational culture. I see different departments thinking about accessibility in the projects that they do, and I also see council thinking about accessibility and asking those questions when you're around the horseshoe. But Irene mentioned that we could do that more. So there's always room for improvement, and there's always a responsibility that we have to take action and make sure that we are thinking about accessibility in everything that we do. So that's just a quick overview, and I'm happy to answer any questions from the report.
Hi, much of the same. The process that has unfolded over the past couple of years has been really extraordinary, and the amount of collaboration that the committee and the clerks have had, I think, is a real example of how collaboration benefits us all. It's been really extraordinary. I do want to commend them and the impact that taking a more assertive approach to accessibility has been included in many reports that we've seen come before council, and it's very clear between when I started as a councillor in 2019, or the very, very end of 2018 till today, there's been a complete alteration in how the municipality centers accessibility, and it's been really heartening to see, and I know it'll just keep growing with the leadership of the clerks and the leadership provided by the committee, and I'm so proud and so grateful. I wanted to just address, well, first off, all this amazing work that you have accomplished that is outlined in the work plan. Thank you for that. There's one question that I do want to ask, which is ensuring that, relating to procedures, ensuring that the language that we use is clear and understandable to all members of the public. I still think in terms of plain language, how we can apply that, how we bring that forward to all of our departments, and how we look to figure out where that fits in the work plan. That's a big question for me. Also making sure that our procedures are so easy to connect with at the council and committee level is of interest to me. And I wonder if that's something that you have, and I'm sorry, I like to give staff sometimes a warning when I'm going to ask a question, and I didn't have a chance to. I'm so sorry. But I'm just wondering if there's anything that you could speak to in that regard. I certainly have seen changes coming out of our communications department, and I'm wondering if there's something organizationally that is being considered or that we could consider.
Through the chair to Councillor McNaughton, the CAO's office and my office hosted a report writing workshop yesterday where we had an entire section on plain language and encouraging report writers and those that write procedures and policies to make sure that they are writing in plain language. So we provided them with a presentation with several slides. So instead of saying, for example, due diligence, using more accessible language to say, like, we invest, like, I can't think off the top of my head, but there's a couple ways that we can make things more understandable. And we aim to write at a grade 5 level. Of course, sometimes that can be difficult because we're trying to communicate complex issues to all of you and the public. But we are trying our best to move towards more of that plain language so that what we provide is more accessible to all.
That's amazing and so timely. And I'm so glad that my question has such a great answer. And I will also say I'll commit to that too, because I've caught myself using the term vis-a-vis instead of regarding at least 5 times in the past week. So stuff like that, I'll endeavor to do the same. Thanks so much for promoting that and for training. That's absolutely the exact target, grade 5, across the board. Thanks so much.
Are there any other questions? Oh, Councillor Roberts. Sorry.
I like Irene's approach. Thank you, Councillor Roy. Like on so many other things, Catalina, thank you for this report, and thank you for your tactful but dedicated leadership on this accessibility file and many others. And I agree wholeheartedly with you, Catalina, that there is a responsibility to act. Thank you for reminding us about that too. My question is to the acting CAO, Adam. I mentioned Shire Hall earlier during Irene's presentation. I can't think off the top of any more highly symbolic or hugely practical initiative coming out of today than to address our own business here, the elevator and the ramp. And I would like to know soonish what it would cost to do that, please.
Mr. Chair, through you, thank you for that. I know there was some preliminary assessment done a number of years ago as part of the pre-work for the renovations here. So I think we might have something on file and we can take a look and report back.
I'd really appreciate that.
Are there any other questions? Mayor Ferguson.
Thank you, Councillor Roy. Just along the same lines, question and I guess a comment to the acting CAO concerning the accessibility parking in the parking lot, which is currently located at the far end of the parking lot. I'd like to see it moved up to the front, where that, ideally where that 10-minute or even move the mayor's parking space, but people with disabilities should be able to access the building quicker than from the far end. A day like today, there's ice and, crud back there. So if you could write that down on the list there, that would be appreciated.
Go ahead.
Through the chair to Mayor Ferguson, we did investigate moving the parking space to a better location when we did the review this past year on accessible parking spaces at main streets and our parking lots. And unfortunately, with the sizing of the space, we were thinking about moving it like closer to your space, making that 10-minute accessible. And while we could make it so that it doesn't meet compliance all of the way, that it's semi-accessible, we could do that. That's a possibility. And we added, it's at the back because I guess the point is that, of course, not during the winter, but in the summer, they can go from the back to the ramp. But there's definitely needs to be like a holistic approach in reviewing where our ramp is located and making this building accessible.
Thank you. Any other? Councillor Main.
Thank you. Just briefly on that note, so I see there is another accessible spot now, correct, on Main Street, right past the parking lot, which I found out because I pulled in the other day and it was like, oh damn, I can't. Yeah. So was that part of the offset for not having ideal parking in it? Because that one, you're pretty close there, right? You're on the sidewalk. That was part of
Correct. That was part of the review. And we added it there so that it's a bit closer.
No other comments? Just before I ask for a motion, I'd like to say I believe the Accessibility Committee has had a lot of help from Catalina, but as I look to Becky filling in for her, well-trained, and thank you for that. And further, I believe when you're home changing diapers, that perhaps in between you may come up with some more ideas.
I'll come be a deputation at the committee.
Could I get a motion to accept? Councillor Roberts, Councillor Nyman.
Is it Councillor Brad? All right. This is a Roberts-Nyman motion that the report by Corporate Services Department dated February 13 regarding the 2022-26 multi-year accessibility plan 24 progress report be received.
All those in favor? Gary. Now we get the report of the operational.
Excuse me,
service.
Mr. Chair.
Oh.
I forgot the second paragraph. And that staff be directed to report back in Q2 2026 with the 2025 progress report on the 2022-2026 accessibility plan.
Point of move. I missed that too.
Okay. All in favor?
Yeah, great. We have a report of the Operational Service Department regarding the Picton Marina.
Good afternoon, committee. I trust everyone has had the opportunity to review the Picton Marina report and are familiar with the challenges we have faced during the 2024 boating season, as well as from previous years. I must state that we have made repeated attempts over the past several months to obtain compliance from the tenant on this agreement without success. And I feel it is the best interest of the county to move away from the current agreement and allow the county's legal team to proceed accordingly. Following this, I do recommend issuing an expression of interest to explore potential operators for the 2025 season. I will answer any questions council may have or committee may have.
Are there any questions regarding this? Councillor Roberts.
Hi. A few minutes ago, I received, and I think all of council received, something from C.J. Thompson. Have you read that?
Through Chair, I have received it, but I have not looked at it in depth.
Okay.
Any Councillor Nyman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, I'm just wondering, said you were, or the legal team is going to put out a expression of interest? Or maybe I just didn't hear it right, maybe.
Through you, Chair, I would put out an expression of interest to get a third party to see who's interested in operating the marina for the 2025 season.
Thanks for that. So, is there a way, and I know that's a good way of going, but is there a way that we could get a report back from staff on what it would involve for the county to take that back in-house and operate it ourselves? And I realize that it's going to cost a lot of money now, but it's going to cost a lot of money for anybody new doing it. So I just want to make sure that we're exploring all options, and that would mean doing it in-house.
Through you, Chair, yes, that definitely is a doable option. I have explored looking at it, operating it in-house, but just due to the fact that nothing has been budgeted for 2025, I thought the best avenue right now would be put it out to tender. But while it's out, and depending on what we receive back, I will definitely in that meantime take a look at putting numbers together and a budget together. So everything will come to council or committee at once so we can decide then.
Okay, and I appreciate that, but I guess with that it would be, so if somebody new takes over, the cost is going to be the same to get it up and running, basically, I guess, because there's nothing there now, right? I'm just trying to figure out, make sure that, we understand that having a third party in, the cost is still there.
Through you, Chair, yes, you're right, and I will be able to present all of that when everything, I receive all those expression of interest, and also you'll receive, an operating budget from me.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, could I ask you to put a motion on the floor to put this item on the table before further conversation?
Thank you. The Councillor Brad motion that council receive report OPS-02-2025, that staff be directed to terminate the Picton Marina sublease rental agreement effective immediately, that council rescind bylaw 174-2020, and that staff be directed to issue an expression of interest to obtain a new marina operator in time for the 2025 season.
If I understood correctly, we're going to get a report from staff. That's correct. In that report, in staff's opinion, would it be appropriate to include like the bigger picture of what's going on in the Picton Marina? For example, the lack of hydro. I understand there are some new transformers are required. There are some additional, at least in the planning stages, of additional docking expectations going on. I'm led to believe that there's also conversations going on with the Prince Edward Yacht Club in terms of docks and 60-40 splits and that sort of thing. If we could have the bigger picture so that we had a really transparent look at what is going on with the marina, I think that might be helpful.
Through you, Chair. I do have a boat launch report coming in late March, I believe it is, which will answer many of your questions and concerns. However, I will still provide, when I'm doing a budget for, in-house operations, I will definitely include a lot of that as well.
Councillor McNaughton, then, or not, St. Jean, and then Councillor Harrison.
Yeah, we look so much alike. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I guess my question is with regards to the late-breaking letter from the subleasee. When I read this, because it did just come in prior to the meeting, read it a couple times, I'm wondering if there's any opportunity to have any further conversations with the subleasee. No, sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, to Troy. Given there's I'll call it a late-breaking request, I'll use the words in the letter, he's stating, we would like to defer this matter to a conversation with staff where we can work together to come to an amicable resolution that addresses the facts and clears up any misunderstandings. It's just one sentence out of the entire letter.
I would...
I'm just curious.
Excuse me.
Yeah?
I would prefer us to move very cautiously. We've asked for a report, and I'll have a discussion.
But, Mr. Chair, that report will not address a request from the leasee of our property to have at least one more conversation to try to address the problems that are not being denied and certainly not, we are all well aware of. So yeah, I'd like to ask Troy that. Should we be doing this in all fairness to all parties?
Through you, Chair, if that is council or committee's request, I can certainly do so. However, I think committee should know this has been an ongoing thing. I know it's late breaking news, but this has been challenges right from right from May, June on. And I have definitely had comments from many of you around this horseshoe about the issues. So I honestly, in my professional opinion and as the director of operations, I feel that the chances were there.
Okay, that's fair enough answer. I will be placing, if I can get a second, or placing a motion to defer or refer back to staff the entirety of agenda item 7.2, but I'll wait until everyone has had their opportunity to speak on the main motion.
Councillor Harrison.
Yes, Troy, my question would be in this, there would be nothing stopping him to put in and I haven't read this letter, let's make this straight, a little bit Sheldon fog here, but the bottom line is there would be nothing that would stop him submitting his proposal with any other proposals, would there?
Through you, Chair, that is absolutely correct.
So I think we have to terminate in order to put that back on the floor for him and everybody else, would be my opinion. You share that opinion?
Through you, Chair, yes. I'm totally fine with that, and the agreement would be much stronger and definitely deal with some of the issues that were of concern the last few years.
Councillor Hirsch.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, and in terms of, I can't read the letter because it's in Apple format and doesn't work on these PCs. But I'll take Councillor St. Jean's word for what it's asking. And I would just note that the timing is just not good. We have to get going if we're going to have a season at the Marina. It's already late February. So as Councillor Harrison has raised, if they feel that they can compete with somebody else, then let them go ahead. But I fully support all 4 of these motions.
Councillor Prendergast.
Thanks, Chair. And to staff. I'm just curious on how many times do you think you've reached out specifically in just as you, but we actually, fun fact is that we have the other the other old operations head here to maybe, not old, okay. Never mind, previous, thank you, fellow council members, on, Can I re-ask this question, please? From our current head of, our director of operations, and if the previous head of operations would like to comment on how many times have we had communication or tried to begin the communication with the current leaseholder, and either communications were ignored and or not properly responded to.
As the chair, I would suggest that we not get into anything that may reflect back on personality.
I'm only asking specifically because, here, and I can give my intentions first to my question. I'm only asking specifically to know on if I was to support Councillor St. Jean's motion, I would like to know, are they coming as a last, what I believe seems like a last-ditch effort, because they're about to lose their contract and now they're willing to have the conversation, or was there other, and they ignored conversations of previous past, or I would like to hear staff side, which is they've tried to have conversations, but this individual ignored them. So I don't need specifics on intention or character or value of work, but I would just like to know, has staff reached out about how many times, and basically was there this chance that's I'm getting confused with?
Through you, Chair, I will say that communication has been constant throughout the entire boating season. I will say that it was complaint driven. So when I got complaints, I would reach out, and complaints were all summer long. And a lot of strong communication started to come in September, multiple times about some non-compliance issue, which, so it's communication has been there, and I've spent a lot of time dealing with it. And so there's been ample opportunities to make things right.
Okay, thank you for that. And thank you for the double check, Chair. I always respect it, but from that information, I'm completely fine with the motion as written.
Councillor Maynard.
Thank you. Well, I am going to support the motion that has the report and the motion that's been presented by staff. I don't think that necessarily precludes further discussions, but I would also I would also like to, in mild direction, ensure that staff is prepared to operate that marina in even in a very scaled back or modest form if we are unable to get another operator for this season, so that at least there is a modest level of service as a backup. And is that okay? Just as direction, I'd rather not put it as a motion.
Through you, Chair, I will make sure that we are providing the service one way or another for this season.
Thank you.
Councillor Roberts?
I think this is a final comment from me anyway, Troy, and that is that whatever we end up doing, I think it needs to keep three words really out front, and that is that the service we provide to the boating public is high standard, reliable, and consistent. I monitored some of the correspondence over the past boating season, and those three words are critical to whatever outcome we arrive at.
Councillor Nyman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I guess for me, I support what's before us. I will have one quick amendment to number 4 of that one. But it will be, I just want to, the report pretty well entails what's happened. And I guess, we don't really want to, I think we've had, everybody's had ample opportunity to correct the issues, I guess, that's been going on. And so I guess, I don't know how I can say this, but on page 28, I guess, the first paragraph, there's some things there that, hasn't been done, and I don't know if it was to be on the county's behalf or how that worked with the M&R, I guess. I don't know if you can speak to that, Troy, or not.
Through you, Chair, honestly, I believe that should be in a different meeting that we discuss that.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, now, is there going to be any amending motions to the motion, or?
Have a quick one if I could. Okay. If I get a seconder, and it would be to number 4 of that, would be to add that it's a report be done also to have it operated in-house. So I don't know how you want to word that. That's okay. So if I could get a seconder on that. Well, they're going to, it says that you're going to put an expression of interest out, and we have the report come back too, so we have all the options in front of us. Is what it,
including.
Yeah.
Can you just so I'm clear exactly what that motion?
You do have a seconder.
Okay.
Just looking for the exact.
Oh,
Any questions?
Mr. Chair, could I just give you some suggested wording for that motion?
Yes, please.
That the Director of Operational Services be requested to report back with a detailed analysis of the operational costs and feasibility of the municipality assuming operations for subsequent seasons. Is that what you were looking for, Councillor Nyman?
I think what I was looking for is, so you put an expression of interest out, but then can you also bring back at that same time kind of a what it would cost for the county to do it? So expression of interest plus a report on what in-house budget. Yeah, in-house budget. Yeah, there.
If I might make a suggestion, our biggest concern is that we're operational. However that happens is important, but I personally would prefer that was left up, because what you're proposing, I agree, is something got to be looked at, but we're also critical if we want this running this year as early as possible. I don't know, is there enough time to go through, until you look at it?
Through you, Chair, that's why I want to get this done, get her going.
Yep. Thank you. So you had a secondary motion, you still want that?
Oh, I still want the motion, yes, because you're still, voting season starts in May, so you got 4 months left. And I think, and I could be wrong, I don't want to put words in Troy's mouth, but I'm sure they could get something together by that time, and then we can have all that thing. So I want to move forward with the motion.
So we going, Councillor Roberts?
Personally, anyway, I think the option of in-house operation for 2025 is, to put it mildly, a long shot. So why wouldn't we just add a fifth component, which says, and that staff provide council with costed options for in-house operation of the marina in subsequent years? And that would have a flow to it. We're going for, yeah, we're going.
Councillor Harrison, then Councillor McNaught.
Getting back to the, trying to keep things at a grade 5 level here. Yeah. Could we not just submit in there that we would also like to staff to put an expression of interest in at the same time? And then we can look at everything in one shot and we know where we're at.
That, if I could, that's what my motion is. I'm just adding a few words under number 4.
Councillor McNaught.
Thank you. So the reason I'm seconding this is because I want to know what that looks like as an option, because I think it might be difficult to find an operator, particularly for this season. So that is why I would like to see the outcome of what Councillor Nyman's proposing. And I think our director understands what's being asked for, and he's already made a commitment to ensure that that marina is open this summer no matter what. And I think it was expressed in, and I don't have the page reference here, I think it was expressed in other options considered that this is, that keeping it in-house is a considerable option. So just knowing what those parameters are, even in brief, would be very helpful, which is why I think it's a good motion, and I'm fully supportive.
Councillor Maynard.
I'm not sure whether that motion is actually on the floor. I'm thinking that maybe we could find, okay. And so,
Are you speaking to
yes,
the
yes,
motion?
I am. I'm just, as a friendly, I think what we want to do is we want to allow staff some latitude in how they do it, but would you be, well, I'm thinking if we just say, you know, that staff be directed to explore all options for the operation of the marina in 2025, right? So that then, I think they have pretty good direction of what we're looking for. You could say, including, you know, an EOI and in-house, but I think if we just say, if they look at all the options for making sure that that arena is operational for 2025, does that get to where you want to?
Yeah, I'm looking at Troy. Are you okay with what was proposed at the start? Are you, or if you're not gonna, if you can't do it, then I'll just remove the motion. I just want to make sure. I thought it would be simple.
Through you, Chair. I totally understand what is wanted. So I'll put out the expression of interest, and when the submissions come back, I'll present those to committee along with an in-house budget. A budget has already been done in, you know, the last time the county budget in 2019, 2020. So the groundwork is there. It just needs to be tweaked. So it's not a huge exercise for me. It will take some time, but it can be done. So when I present everything, I will present everything. Expression of interest plus in-house.
If you're happy,
So does
I'm
that mean-
happy.
Yeah, so you're good, I guess, if he's saying
So
that he's taking.
we have the, Councillor Brainy.
Yeah, I was just going to say, actually, Councillor McNaught mentioned it. Could we just pull the motion? I have complete confidence the director is going to come back.
As do I.
with this. And I think we're just, as Councillor Harrison said, let's keep it real. Let's vote on this.
Mayor Ferguson. Oh, okay. Everyone clear on the motion?
So we've got an amendment.
with amendment. Well, we have to vote on the.
No, I think we might be pulling the motion. I've pulled my seconding. I'm confident in the director.
I can't hear you.
Can I speak or not?
Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So, hearing what Troy had said, we'll just pull the motion if the seconder wants to pull it. Troy knows what we're looking for, so I'm good with it.
Thank you. Now we'll vote on the original motion.
Just a sec.
Oh,
Sorry, committee. As it stands, the direction of the motion is written is different than the intent. So you do need to amend motion 4 to be reflective of the fact what Troy exactly said is going to bring you back the expressions of interest as well as the in-house option. So I'm sure Victoria has that written and she could read that.
hey, Councillor St. Jean, you've had your hand up there for a long time. Were you voting or asking? Oh.
Mr. Chair, I believe the clerk needs to weigh in as per the clerk's recommendations.
Mr. Chair, could I suggest then, an additional clause and that staff be requested to report back with all viable options for the Picton Marina for 2025?
Everybody clear on the motion?
Do you need a mover?
I'll second it.
I'll second.
Okay. All those in
For
favor?
clarification, Mr. Chair, we are voting on the amendment? Yes. Okay.
Yes. All those in favor? That motion carries.
Mr. Chair, I kind of forewarned everybody I was going to bring forward a deferral motion, and I'd like to do that at this time. If I have a seconder.
Do we have a seconder? Seeing none? Thanks for your consideration.
You had a lot of dates on that, didn't you?
It
You
worked
mean,
though,
thanks
Bill.
for coming out, yeah.
Can I get a
Main motion is amended.
main motion as amended? All those in favor? That carries. Now we'll move on to 7.3, report of the Corporate and Legislative Services Department.
Through the chair to committee, my final report to council is the appointment of a permanent integrity commissioner. Very happy to have brought this forward.
That's your final report.
Yeah, and just a quick overview is we did things a little bit differently. We had Adam, the Director of Housing, the Director of Corporate and Legislative Services, Aaron, the Manager of HR, and myself, and as an executive committee, and we interviewed 2 candidates, and we're very pleased to bring forward David. He really understands what the role is, the balance that it takes to be an integrity commissioner, weighing what the public's needs are as well as what council's needs are, and I have full confidence that he will serve this municipality well.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Catalina, and all of the staff, I guess, that were involved in bringing forward this recommendation. I don't think it's of no surprise that, and I'm not being critical when I say this, that Mr. Bogosian does have a history. Not unlike our former integrity commissioner, where he has been removed a couple of times, Sudbury being one of them. I'm only saying that so that we are all aware. I did some background history. It's in the news. It's public, right? And, but what I do want to say, and again, I'm not being critical of Mr. Bogosian or the recommendation, I think municipalities, councils have a tendency to be extremely critical of integrity commissioners. Somewhat like CAOs, they don't necessarily keep their jobs very long because they are our watchdogs, and they ruffle feathers when somebody gets caught, I'll say, with their hand in the cookie jar, for lack of a better phrase. So I just wanted it to be out there for those of you that weren't aware that just like our former IC, he was relieved of his duties in another municipality. But funny enough, he was hired 2 days later in another one in Niagara region, who didn't seem to have any concerns. So that's just a little bit of current news that I think we should all be aware of in the event that there may be some criticism of the choice that we have made today, or will be making today. So.
Thank you, Chair Panel.
Mr. Chair, before we go any further, could I get a motion to put the report on the floor?
I'll put it on the floor if you want. Sure. I just want to say, Catalina, thank you. I think you've left us in a good position. I'm happy with this appointment, and I'm happy to move it and move forward with it. I think it puts us in good shape. Would you like me to read that out now? That the report CLS-11 2025, the Corporate Legislative Services Department, be received, and that the Council of the County of Prince Edward hereby requests notice to be provided to Airden Burles LLP to finalize any current or existing files to terminate the contract for interim integrity commissioner services effective February 25th, 2025. Save and accept for the continuation of any files until completion. And 3, the council appoint David Bogosian as the corporation of the County of Prince Edward's Integrity Commissioner in accordance with the Municipal Act to carry out this mandate and any additional duties that may be placed upon the Integrity Commissioner by legislation. Number 4, that a bylaw confirming the appointment of David Bogosian as the Integrity Commissioner for the provision of Integrity Commissioner services until February 2029 be brought forward for approval at the February 25th, 2025 council meeting. And at 5, that the appointment of as Integrity Commissioner Dave Bogosian collaborate with the Clerk's Office to organize a refresher introductory training session with Council on the role of the Integrity Commissioner and the Code of Conduct and the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. And that's moved by myself and I believe seconded by Councillor St. Jean.
Catalina, this is, I think you said your last motion? Last report? I had a little whispering, I won't say from which direction it came, that I should call for a recorded vote. But I'll spare that because I know that it will be unanimous in the end, and we unanimously wish you all the very best in your next huge adventure.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Coming back to what Councillor St. Jean just said, I did some of that same research too, and I think in the Sudbury case, it's interesting that the reason that they fired Mr. Bogosian as the Integrity Commissioners, they didn't like hearing the truth. And hopefully we will appreciate hearing the truth, even if we don't like what that truth is. So I think he'll be a good choice.
Thank you. Through the chair, if I could just add, a major enhancement as well of his services will be the fact that council will receive a yearly report from the Integrity Commissioner, where there will be statistics on the work accomplished for the past year. And I think that level of transparency and enhancement will bode this municipality really well.
Mayor Ferguson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much for this Catalina, and the work that you've put into this. I was thinking, I look forward to working with Mr. Bogosian, but I really don't. Hope we don't have to utilize his services too much, but thank you very much for all the work that you put into this with the other members of the committee. I echo Councillor Roberts' comment and wishing you all the best for the next several months. And I also thank you very, very much for leaving us in very good hands with the acting clerk, who we look forward to working with. So thank you very much, and all the best for, well, until you get bored, which will be 2 months, 3 months.
Oh, no.
We have had
She will not be bored.
Had a mover and a seconder. Oh, excuse me, Councillor Branders.
Just a final addition that if you need to bring a junior clerk to any meetings, because this child will be very clerked, feel free to know that the accessibility is here. And if you need to pass it off to any counselor, we would be more than willing.
It'll be a
And
brawl.
the mayor changes diapers. Yeah. Councillor Harrison.
Yes, I'd just like to wish you the best, very well, Catalina, as well. And let's not all forget, at one council meeting, Councillor Grosso showed his credentials if you have to come to look after the baby. Okay?
Anyway, I'd like to get a vote on
The motion on the floor.
the motion that's on the floor. All those in favor? Carry. Prior to asking for a motion of adjournment, I hope as many around the table as possible can join over in the room here to congratulate. Councillor Branders, go ahead.
Can I have a seconder? Councillor Prinzen, this is Brandhorst Prinzen motion that this meeting now adjourn at 2:31 p.m. All in favor? That carries.
Takes a village.
Well said, Councillor.